Okay. Why is this not working? Okay. So what was I doing last time? Published the ECS library, but when I'm developing this ECA library, this ECS library, I need to be fully integrated with my game engine, and that's the main thing that I have to be careful. So game dev and game playground. So let's see. Let's take it from the top. I did a lot of changes, but there are a lot of things that I don't remember. So let's just try to run it and see what. Okay. Oh shit, it's in the packages component. Packages. I should drop this, and I don't think I need it, but I'll keep it here temporarily. The ECS project, I think it's fine. I can move this here. And then I had only one error. Let's restart it. Now let's see the errors. There should be some errors here. Okay, so component, okay, component. Rendering state animation system. What the hell was I doing here? I was working on the current state thingy. Okay. So this is obsolete. Current state is obsolete. So the component current state, I should delete it. Save delete. It's used here. Okay, delete it. And here. Because I used components which can be grouped. So the ECS now supports grouped components. So you can register a component group and then they're mutually exclusive. So let's do that. Register. Like this. The fact that I'm overcomplicating the registry. So on world declarations components, I have all the components. Which is fairly stupid if I... Why did I do it like this? Let's see. Because it's a components registry. Right. Just gonna put it like this. So these are state components. And they will be mutually exclusive. And it's basically idle walking, attacking with club. I could call them differently, but I don't care right now. Right, so right now, this guy here has no clue what's happening. So what did I do here? So I only solved half of the problem because I now registered the component and it's swappable. But then here, when I need to render it, because I want to render it, I'm still leaking I'm still leaking details. How do I get? I can do get component group. But I still need to go through all the entities, right? So I have the entity, and attached to it there are a bunch of components. These components are in a group and they are interchangeable, swappable. So basically, let's say right now the component has this active on it and has this. And now in the rendering loop, I have to take each entity, because it's a for each entity, and see what kind of, from this group, so give me from group G the component 2, for example, because this is 2 here. So I'm still avoiding a state on the entity here. Although I solved the problem of swappable, I haven't solved the problem here. So here I need to figure which one is selected. So by bit mask, this should be very fast. But it's still a while. It's still a freaking while. I think at some point I need some sort of state manager on the whole game engine concept, which of course can be, wait a second, but in ECS the state is stored at the component level. So basically you have the entity and the components, and the entity and the components are just storages of data, of key value data, and I'm here just trying to make it magically work. And the cost would be the while. But you know what? I want to keep the cost of the while. I want to keep the cost. I want to see how far I can stretch this. And I see I did this here. Current state system. But it's not, I don't need a component. And I don't need these states. What I need is components. I need to get the state. I need to get the state components. And I need to get them here. State components, and then here I need to determine which is the component. So it's a state component find Entity has component. Interesting. Wait a second, what? So this returns components. Not state components. Okay, but are you telling me the state components? Oh shit, get component group. Ah, it returns, okay. So it's group component group state components group, and then state components group of components. We're looking for the first component. State component. Okay, how do you continue in a for each? Let's see. I keep forgetting. I think it's a return. Yeah, it's a return. Let's keep this if it doesn't have a state component attached. The AI gave me some strange suggestion. As no available. Find the first state component and return it. Should be only one. Right. So This keyboard, man. How does people like mechanical keyboard? Because it blows, it sucks. Let's see a classical Microsoft keyboard, like the most basic of them all. How does this work? Should work better than anything. Okay, so I have a state component, I have props. And I need to tell it that is a certain type of component, because the idle is the kind of rendering state component. So can I do as this one? Yes. And it works like magic. But then the state component needs to be replaced. Rendering current animation state. Well, I had something in mind here, but I don't care right now. God damn it, which one is the shortcut? Alt G? No. Alt J. In Linux. Frame index is redundant. Well, I don't care if you consider it redundant. Okay, we abstracted this. And now onto the rendering system. So animation state. Okay, I had something in mind here, so rendering state animation system. So the goal of this was to set a state, apparently. This is how I've thought about it. So that the rendering system can mind its own business here. I actually like that. I actually like that. So let's see what we have. Change. Animation state, current state. Oh, okay, so I made a component which has this animation state. And the component kept the component as well. And then the entire animation, so I don't have to compute it again. Holy shit. I was thinking very decoupled actually, and I kind of like it. Back to the drawing board. Shit. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm determining the state. So the state can be walking. And the state of walking has some properties on it, which are state name, animation tick is playing, has finished. So basically rendering stuff. So this is like walk, but then it has the direction, walk, down, already computed. And then here I determine which one of, so I determine, okay, it's walk. I get the direction, I set up the animation state, I fetch the animation. Okay. I put the index. Oh shit. So I also have the animation object, which is the declaration of the animation. Which will change. Does it change? And then according to my local history, I also set the component. But I know this is the component, this is the animation. And then I'm feeding this is the first system. And the second system just gets this and this here. And position, sprite sheet, and just renders these two. Just rendering. I mean, it makes sense to separate these two, but in order to separate them, I need the state to be stored somewhere. So why am I complicating my life here when I can store the state directly on this type of components, on the walking, on the idle, and on the attacking with club. So let's see. Now I understand why, because there's no place where I'm saving the current animation name. That's the problem. God damn it. That's the problem when I do it in two systems. The second system doesn't know, okay, which is the current state? You still haven't told me by this time which is the current state. So having two systems makes sense, brings complexity, but I think it also helps me decouple the code better. So if something happens, then okay, this is in the frame logic. If something happens in the other system, okay, that's the rendering system. I think it's still better to be decoupled. So it's just a matter of creating a rendering state component that is attached to this component. Okay, so I'm gonna do like this. Render. That will component will be a rendering state yes. I think at some point I should introduce the naming convention, like everything should end with a component, because otherwise it's kind of or not. Okay, so this is now rendering state, or should I say current rendering state? I think that's more current rendering state. And the props is just one component. So it's like, tell me what kind of component wait a second. So if I want component, I actually want rendering component. And am I looking at the type or the instance? God damn it. Am I looking at the type or the instance? I think I'm looking at the instance. Current. How have I called this? Current mutually excluded. So let's register this here. Register rendering state. Wait, current rendering state should be something that I should have by default. Yes. So it's add current rendering state. And then I think the default should be like this. So am I going for the type or the instance? That's always the problem. I think I'm gonna go with the type. I think I'm going with the type. Right? I'm going with the type. Type of. What? Type of idle is never. What? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Oh, shit. Here. And the lords of TypeScript are happy now. So by default, I have to add this because it is something that is mandatory for this engine to work. Of course, somebody else, me in another game with this engine, I can choose a different paradigm, like multiple states. And I'm gonna think about how to do this in the future. And then here, what I had is okay. So I had where the heck was this? Where did I do this? At what stage? History. I did it after animation because I also set the animation on that. Const current component entity get component current rendering state, And then on current rendering state, I'm setting let's do a public set component declaration type of, and I'm this properties. Okay, so set component, and I do found state component declaration, and it doesn't work. Ah, right. Because here, what's happening? Okay. Go tough on me, huh? If I do it like this. Huh. I couldn't. Wait a second. So T. T extends this type of T. It doesn't work because T is already a type, right? Okay, I'll leave it be. I'm actually curious. Let's talk with Gemini. So in my type script code, I want to suggest that the component variable in the following find is actually type of rendering state component. Directly on the parameter, assert the type of component parameter inside the arrow function. And I just use generics in the find callback, because that's how the pros are doing. Countries and find change type later. Certified method was already type based on repeating, so generics T are used to create a reusable component like function class that work on any type. Yeah, you're right. The correct way type predicates. Okay, sir. Okay. Whatever you say. Okay, so now I have register the current state. But also I want to register the animation. Shouldn't that exist on the component itself? It should, in my opinion. It's not this one, TypeScript, you're fucking it up. It's animation from the sprite sheet. So animation has the frames, the speed, and the hitbox offset. So how about animation? How about I save it here? And this animation that got lost in the code. I'm sorry. So it's here. I kept the animation in the component. Ah, because it's sprite sheet. Okay, that's odd. I might need to move that. I might need to move that. Okay, so is working. Animation registry, sprite sheet. So this guy here needs to reference this. What do you mean it's never used? It's here. Sometimes it's kind of dumb. What do you mean? Shit, and at the beginning this is empty. But the system will pick it up, set it, and so on. Okay. Frame speed, hitbox. Yeah. So first it's undefined, unfortunately. Ah, okay, I see why it says that. Mission. So it's animation. Yeah, it has to be an empty object. Okay, and in here, register current state. Register current animation. And then here in the rendering system, we have magic. Okay, so it's component, and we also need the animation. which is on it's in here. It's component declaration. And then I get component by entity get component this. And that I get animation from component properties animation. And there you go. We did it. But now we have to test the rest. Let's see. I think I should refine the state. Or not. Anyway, I think state in any game is a very opinionated object, and it has to be opinionated. It has to be opinionated because if it's not, then you have to do shitload of abstraction, basically. Understand my point here? So you want so do you want the state component to contain the animation properties or not? Probably not, although in my case it's just a reference. But having a dedicated component that says, okay, this is the current state, that's fine. I think that's fine. Because it's only one. The rest of the state maybe shouldn't be called state. I don't know. But let's see. Okay, so now I think we're having some rendering issue. Let's see from where this comes. There is something wrong here. And I think it's just tied to the way I do the animation. What the hell? So frame duration. What if this is 60? Oh shit, this is better. So why was this, if it's 120? I see why, because he's traveling more than he's animated. Of course, this should be a configuration somewhere, but perfect. Perfect. I'm not satisfied with the processor there, but I don't care. Okay. So now everything is decoupled. The ECS was published. I still should publish the example and the way the ECS works, because I will probably forget. So let's see. You have the component. Have the system. And you have the entity. So one entity can have multiple components. Okay, one entity has multiple components and is defined by that multiple components. Now a system
do I draw this? Maybe make this smaller. Then you have a system. Then you have a query. Let's see. So system query. Okay, so an entity has one or multiple components. And it is essentially described by them. Now a system calls a query, which query goes to entity. Query goes to multiple entities. Oh, shit. So query goes to multiple entities. Based on a specific component relationship. So if I ungroup this, this would be the component. Right. Or this and this. a system has a query is defined by now system acts only upon entities that satisfy the query condition based on the existence of certain entity components. Acts only so the key here is that it's like this. This is the key. A system acts only upon entities based on existence of certain components. This would be in short that watermelon under cat. Boo. What's that username, man? That watermelon under cat. Are you serious? Did I mess up the focus here or something? You know, something that I just noticed is that the character actually opens its mouth when he's breathing. Gotta be kidding me. This character. Okay. So how many files do I have to commit right now? Final answer is shitload. A shitload of files. So let's see. Fixed the new added new component group system. What did I change here? Wait, what? So I'm gonna git push. But what about here? Moved entity declarations does not belong to this library. Okay. So I guess I did my goal for today. And I'll move forward with the next. So I think this was the biggest thing. You know, nailing states for this type of project. If you nail the states and everything, the rest should be easier. What I'm kind of worried is that I don't have a queue. Right now, I don't have a queue. Dude, chill, chill. Okay, that's it. I'm out. Talk to you later. Good sesh.